So welcome everybody. And so today is the, I guess probably the last AMA for 2019. So it's already December, close to mid of December. And so it's good to have a good update because I think in October, we had lots of big events like the community vote and eventually we got listed on Binance. So I think lots of excitement and in October, and then that excitement translates into more users and who actually owns NKN, and also back in the background, the NKN team has also achieved lots of new things. So I think it's a good time to have a kind of annual update, and then we can look forward to the new year, 2020. So that's the purpose of today's Zoom. So on the call, right now we have Alan on my left side, and Bruce, and Elon is remote. And I think Yembo will join very soon. It's really late in Beijing, but I think it's about 1 a.m. in the morning. So he will join very soon, and thanks him to stay so late. Okay, so let's see. All right, let's start with maybe I'll help Yembo with some of the Zoom connection. So maybe Alan, you take the technical question and start with Elon.
With Elon, okay, let's do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take questions from a couple different sources. If you put a comment in YouTube, we'll try to capture it there. We do have some questions from forum that we're going to start with here, and also we'll take questions from Zoom as well. So please submit your questions. And with that, so we're going to start with a couple technical questions. So this one's for Elon, I think. So this comes from Mark G85. The question is, my question is already in NKP, which is NKP 003, providing HTTPS WSS endpoint for every NKN node. But I'm curious to know the official stance on this and what to expect. I personally love to experiment with NKN in a commercial environment, nothing big, but I can't even begin making a suggestion if HTTPS isn't possible. Currently, NKN is only usable in HTTP contexts and non-web contexts. While that's still awesome, I kind of hope for an HTTPS solution here. How does NKN plan to tackle this, and what's the time frame for it?
Okay, that's a very that's a question just on time. So if you look, so first of all, if you look at the pull request of the NKN repo, specifically it's pull request 660, you will find it's already reviewed and ready to merge. So basically, you should be able to see it merge into master branch in the next version.
Hello, everyone.
Probably sometime like this week or very recently. So it should be available very soon. So aside from the NKN repo, there's also a GeoDNS repo under the NKN.ORG organization, and it's the DNS it's a like DNS side that actually provides the NKP 003 DNS functionality. So both of them are ready. So the status is pretty close, and we should be able to use it very soon. Yeah. So just a few some simple explanation to people who are not familiar with NKP 003. So currently, because a client needs to connect it to some node, he cannot predict or like it could be any node in the network, and we cannot ask every node to have their like valid certificate. So by saying valid, it actually means the certificate is trusted by is signed by CA, because that typically costs quite a lot of money. So in this, and also it requires you each node to have a specific different and valid domain, such that the browser won't complain about it. So in order to solve this problem, we provide NKP 003, which doesn't cost any node any money or like anything. So all they need to do is to open up 2 more ports, and we will use I would say a helper name server and built-in certificate to handle everything, and it's ready to use very soon. Yeah, that's it. We can move to the next question.
Yeah, no worries. There's another technical question here, and it's along the same lines here, and it involves SSL certificates. So maybe that could be something you could answer as well. It's a totally different question, but sparked by the HTTPS core issue. There seems to be a dire need in the distributed world to have some means of a decentralized certificate authority. Does NKN see a role for itself here? If I'm correct, the NKN network is perfectly suited to fulfill this role, and it could mean that NKN would become very attractive for other decentralized projects to use as a means of getting certificates. I know there's more to it than just starting a certificate authority. You have to be trusted by other root authorities, and due to the distributed nature, some new protocols probably have to be created to make that a smooth integration.
Yeah, this is a very good question, and we actually have quite detailed discussion in the in one of the NKP. I'm not sure if it's NKP03 or another post in the forum, but so the short answer is that yes, on the long term, or probably not short answer, but on the long term, blockchain is very suitable for like decentralized CA, because traditionally the CA is, you can think of is some public information that is, so the reason that we need CA to sign the certificate is because everyone needs to agree on some same information, right? And we actually trust CA and his signature to provide that information. And as long as we see that signature, we know it is something that it is true, and everyone else will also see it. But now we have blockchain, and blockchain is perfect for storing such information. And once it's stored, we no longer need any like centralized like authority or any other organization to sign the data, because as long as we agree on a same blockchain as a single source of truth, and the certificate is stored on the blockchain, then that's enough, and we don't need any other things. So it's perfect for distributed CA from its nature. But the problem, as we mentioned in the forum, to achieve this is not a technical question. It's not a technical problem at all. So the problem itself is probably trivial to achieve from the technical side. But in order to gain real adoption, so by seeing adoption, it actually means that it is agreed by all the other libraries, the network libraries and the browser. Then it probably took tens of years, which is very, very slow, because currently the network stack will have all those kind of CA related, SSL related, DNS related things built in. And in order to actually use it, we need to, most of the library to actually implement it, and the same way. And also the browser, especially the browser, implemented it and use a blockchain as a actually single source of truth when it's trying to fetch or validate a certificate. It's really like a non-technical adoption problem, not a technical issue. But on a long term, we do see that this is a very, I would say, good direction.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you. I'm going to go switch gears a little bit. So we have a question here from our forum from Tom.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I can take it.
You want to get this one? Okay,
yes.
Bruce. So Tom says, are you able to see how many potential, are you able to say how many potential clients you're working with or currently testing for? It sounds like there could be a few in the pipeline, both for NCDN and Tuna. Does NKN have plans to, let's start with that one.
Right. Let's see. So actually, I'll combine with another question on the Twitter. So by Irish Crypto Wolf. So his question is, I understand you have an NDA in place relating to prospective customers. Would it be possible to briefly update the community in relation to the characteristics of these potential partnerships, such as demographic, turnover, industry sector, and countries, etc.? Yeah. So I think the question from Tom and also from Irish Crypto Wolf are very much on the commercialization or the adoption side of the where we are. So I think this is something we're actually most excited about, because over the last few months, we actually had lots of good traction, and especially this week, and some of the kind of the seeds we planted kind of start to produce results. So I'm very happy to really give you an overview of where we are making good progress and where we actually have great achievements. Still, for most of the companies, I cannot mention name, but some of them I can when it's possible, right? So I think right now, we actually have a suite of products. So we call it Communication as a Service, or CaaS, Communication as a Service. The reason is, if you say NKN, what is NKN doing? If you say, oh, we are doing CDN, or if we are doing this file transfer, it's more kind of separated, right? So there's individual pieces. But if you think about it, what can unify them all together? It's really providing this kind of essential communication service as a suite. So underneath, we have this, the DChat, like decentralized messaging and communication. And we have the NFTP, the decentralized file transfer. We have the CDN, NCDN. And upcoming, we have N-Shell, and sorry, N-Shell is already there for managing the computers remotely. And of course, Tuna, right? So some of the use case for Tuna is already being validated. So these are the kind of 5 products we group under this umbrella. We call it Communication as a Service. And this kind of the branding or kind of overall message seems to go very well with the both for enterprise as well as with our potential customers. So that's number 1. Now, in terms of country and segment and customer progress, right? So I think the first one, we really pushed lots of effort in the CDN part. So we mentioned about this Chinese YouTube, right? So, or sometimes we call it Smart Tube, because we cannot announce a name yet. The good news is actually, after maybe over 3 months of testing, so the technical side, we passed the technical testing. So now it's more about the price negotiation and the commercial side. So that's a very good kind of news actually happened this week. So we are very much on the way to actually get the revenue, and well, of course, we have to conclude the commercial agreement first, but at least from technical capability point of view, the NKN CDN is as good as the other suppliers they already have. So that's kind of the good news. So this, of course, on the high-end side, because they are the top 3 video content owner, so they have a lot of TV and movie episodes, and very much on the level of YouTube or Netflix in US, but it's in China. So that on NCDN side. And then the other thing is also related to content delivery, but we're actually using Tuna to make a very efficient and low-cost file transfer between people's. So the use case I can tell very publicly, but I cannot mention the name of the company. So this is a net attached disk, so storage, NAS. So typically, it's like a hard disk. Could be 2 terabytes, could be 10 terabytes. You buy it for your home use, and you plug it into your home network, like a local network. Then the main idea is you back up your photos, your videos, and your files, so everybody in the family can share that hard disk, right? So it's a kind of network hard disk. And there's a use case. So within your home, it's very easy because you can use your any internal devices to access it, no problem, right? There's no security problem. It's all within the same private internal network. But what if you are actually out of the home and you're outside, you want to access some of your photos, some of your videos, which is stored in that network disk at home. So there's a need for the access or transfer the data or large amount of file between your home disk and also your mobile phone. So traditionally, what people have been doing is really using a centralized server, like, I don't know, Amazon service or some of the Chinese cloud storage space as a relay to transfer the file. But we actually, the technical team solve it by using Tuna. And then your home hard disk is still totally secure because it does not have any public IP address or any port open to the external world. By using the Tuna service, we can actually make it happen that you can directly transfer file from your home disk to your mobile phone. So that one, even though we cannot announce the name of the company, but it's actually a real adoption. The reason is currently they are pushing the NKN related, the software, their latest software, which include the NKN client, into their home hard disks to more than 15,000 customers. So the target is about 35,000 over the next few weeks. And they also include the NKN client into their mobile applications. And they submitted to the Android App Store and also iTunes store. So once it's approved, they'll be in even more like a consumer application as well. So that's a real use case, real adoption, and also on a scale already much larger than any of the application we have built on top of NK. So that's another exciting news I want to share. So that's on the tuna and the direct file transfer, like file transfer side. And then I think there's other things going on as well. Another big thing is really we have signed a collaboration agreement with China Mobile, not the head office, but one of the city subdivision of China Mobile in southern China. So there are two pieces of this collaboration. One is the more on the strategic side. So it's umbrella collaboration in terms of cloud computing, P2P networking, blockchain research, and etc. And there's another piece which is more concrete, is a contract that will use the China Mobile's edge servers to run our CDN service, our file transfer service to provide to the enterprise. So that there are two pieces of it, and we signed the contract earlier this week. So we have done lots of good work in the business development side. So that's kind of a longer version update that I think lots of community are very interested. And I think that's the thing we are really excited about, because this is really shows that our technology not only it's good for proof of concept, but actually you can use it in real life and commercial applications. And the adoption is much better than we expected as well, faster as well.
I'm sorry to jump in. So for more information about what Bruce just talking about, we already have, just as Bruce said, we already have some solid progress to let our NKN solution to be integration on some companies' products line. And that's not only the only case, because we are building the communication layer. And this layer is the requirement almost by all of currently internet company. More or less, they have a requirement to transfer message or file stream, something like that. We have a solution that could be supplied no cost and very easy to access, internet access for them. So when we set up this success case, we can extend this case to all of the company. And I think at that time, we can say that we are really set up the foundation of Web 3.0. So that's what I want to talk with you guys.
Yep, thank you, Yanbo. And Alan, please. Yeah, so I think we are really excited because we can actually kind of complete some of those deals before the year end. I think it's a really good testament to the kind of maturity of our technology, as well as kind of we are addressing some real problem in the kind of internet space, right? So lots of the companies in the internet space do something similar, and actually those companies who use our technology have the option of use traditional internet technology, but they actually choose us. So it shows us not only we have technical benefits, but also economic benefits in terms of better pricing, more scalable, and also less infrastructure, because we are very much direct peer-to-peer transmission.
Yep, absolutely.
I also see a question that also raised by Tom is that, do we have a plan to list on Coinbase in the next year? Right. So hope so, I just can say.
Yeah, I can add something. So I think Coinbase and also Binance.us, I think these are the and also Bittrex, right? Bittrex also a US exchange. So I think we're interested in all of them. So the exchanges are actually, they base their decision more or less on kind of financial reasons, right? If a particular token or coin have large volume, have lots of interest in the community, I mean, at the end of the day, exchanges want they want fees, right? Transaction fees. So I think for us currently it's a little bit small. So, but I think the good news is I think we are one of the few projects that are actually very focused on a real world use cases, right? Mm-hmm. And once those adoptions start to happening, and also we will be covered more by traditional media, mass media, instead of just crypto media, because actually the company we're dealing with are traditional internet companies and enterprises, then I think we'll get the recognition we want in 2020. And I think the volume will also, and the other parts will come. And I think it will be much easier for, and also from legal point of view, so there's very clear utility, right? How do you use NKN within this ecosystem? It will be very obvious. So for example, like in the file transfer or tuna, the tuna is very simple. So the buyers of the communication service will pay directly to the provider of the communication service. So so it's very easy. So it's a we call it nano payment channel. So they pay by NKN, they settle instantly, right? Of course, not every tiny bit, but they aggregate and they settle. So it's very easy to argue the utility. And once we have, and also because now we are in tens of thousands of users, so it's also very easy to prove that it's not a imaginary use case or it's a test use case. It's actually a real use case with a large adoption, right? So these are, all of these will help us really to get listed on the US exchanges. But I think right now, the main missing part is more to ramp up the community and the overall, the brand recognition and the volume.
And I think with that, I think you also answered a question by SSS on the YouTube channel as well, which is all about the Coinbase
okay.
as well. So
I see.
That was a 2-for-1.
Okay.
Yeah, sticking with the token stuff right now, Coxwell from YouTube also asks, when can we expect Ledger integration for mainnet tokens?
Okay, so there are two parts, right? So I think first of all, it's about security. So we actually have done extensive internal security like a check, and we go through all the code reviews and ourselves, and also by running the mainnet for almost half a year, so we also get lots of kind of experience how to handle different type of attacks and spamming. So those are already built in. Another thing is, so we will officially start the third-party audit, I think next week. So
yes,
it's next week, yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's a very renowned security audit company with lots of experience, both in internet security as well as specializing in cryptocurrency and blockchain technology. So that evaluation will last between 6 weeks to 8 weeks. And so we expect once that conclude, then we have all the confidence and of course, during the process, we probably will do interactively fixing anything they find out. And then once that is done, I think we are very much confident to go to the exchange and go to the hardware wallet to do the final integration. Because we don't want to do it too early, because then you have to fix all the things. It's a little bit challenge because the hardware wallets, they have limited resource and they have to handle lots of coins. Same with exchanges, right? They don't like you to go there again, try to fix things. So I think we want to make sure we are very ready, and then we go and get it done in one go.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay.
I guess sticking with the token and mining thing, on our YouTube channel, Marino Canal asks, if NKN mining is profitable for single and small hardware users, wouldn't it make sense for large cloud providers to replace those small miners, since economies of scale would apply?
Yeah, I think cloud computing, you always have a fixed cost, right? So even the cheapest, I think, I remember some people have offering $2 per month or $3 per month for the smallest kind of virtual machine. It's still a cost. And quite often you also need to pay for the bandwidth as well. Not always, but sometimes you have a cap and then you have to pay. So at home, mining still have an advantage in terms of cost, right? So the limitation, of course, current limitation is one public IPv4 address per node. So typical family, you cannot run more than one node at home. But I think like Alan and I both run Raspberry Pi at home, so they cost nothing and they don't consume much energy. They use the internet connection you already have. And so for you, the running cost is zero, right? So from that point of view, I think we do want to have this distribution of nodes. We don't want to have one cloud service provider dominating. Then it's very much like back to Google or Amazon. So so I think the current economic incentive, in a way, it's good. The reason is you can actually cater into both home kind of small node as well as big cloud nodes. So I think from that point of view, I think it's a good, healthy balance between these two kind of group of miners. And also in the future, like I just mentioned, those network disks or this home connected hard disks can join, those embedded devices can join, then I think it's even more distributed. So I think that's actually a good, healthy ecosystem to have many different types of providers, right? So I personally think in the telecommunication or networking business, today is too centralized, right? So for most people, especially in the US, there's only one or two internet service provider for your home. So you don't get the performance and the price you have if you have hundreds or even dozens of suppliers, right? That's kind of the main problem we want to address. So instead of just one or two entities, they build a road for everybody. The core concept of NKN is like everybody can build their own road and then interconnect together. Then you can become the infrastructure of the future.
Mm-hmm. Great. Let me see. Let's take another question here. This one more about the network side. So this is from Tofo Media. He or she asks, actually 90% of the actual 19,000 nodes online are only run by a handful of people. What do you say about that fact? It seems not really being decentralized.
So Yulen can take this one. Yeah, Yulen can provide some stats as well. So it's not.
So I just want to make sure that the question is like 90% of the nodes are run by who?
So what they're saying is 90% of the actual 19,000 nodes online are only run by a handful of people. That's
okay. Yeah, I see. So yeah, this is actually related to what Bruce mentioned, and so first of all, from the stats, so it's already, well, so if you compare to other cryptocurrency like Bitcoin, or where a single entity can run almost 50% of the node, NKN is already more decentralized than them. But it's still, if you are thinking that in a decentralized world, everyone can only run one or two nodes, then that's probably not going to happen in a free market, because let's say there is always for people with like more resources, like what I mean by resources is time, money, public IP address, machines, all those kind of resources. If it's profitable for them to run one or a few nodes, then he can always extend to a larger number of nodes, probably 100 or 1,000, depending on what kind of condition, and make it still profitable for him. But probably there is a critical point where it's no longer profitable after it. But this is pure. If he find it profitable, he can always launch more nodes until he reaches the critical point, and this is what happened in free market. And we don't. So first of all, we don't think there is any problem with it, and there is also no technical reason or no technical possibility to restrict that each one person can only run like one node or 10 node, because you see that if I run 100 node, I can pretend to be 100 different people, because each node is purely anonymous, right? I don't register node with my, let's say, social security or ID number or something like that. So there's no way to say that, okay, this node belongs to that people. So technically, the only thing we can do is to design a proper economic model and let the free market to lead it to the way we want. So currently, you can see that by restricting like the public IP address and by also kind of load balancing we have in the NKN network, it's already pretty decentralized and much decentralized than the other cryptocurrency. So I think from our point of view, it's already doing pretty good. And as for what you mentioned, that like some people have running thousands of nodes, we don't think that's a technical problem, because it's a result of the free market. Yeah.
Yeah. And also one more note. So some of the stats is not accurate. For example, it shows like almost 80% is in the US, but some of the cloud provider, like for example, Google, so their IP address mapping to the country is not accurate. So even though, for example, we have lots of nodes in for example, 15 different data centers around the world for Google Cloud, but they all count as in Google Mountain View, California. So there's also you cannot really trust exactly this IP address to the country mapping either. So that's one note. And then I think I will follow up with 2 questions that's on the webinar by Cass. So the Cass has asked a question. So there's only 67 nodes in China. How is that possible with all the testing there? So I'll start and then Elon can kind of jump in. So in China, the main reason in China that the like a typical NKN node is not very profitable, the main reason is the network in China is not the fastest. I'm not talking about speed, it's about latency. So if 2 nodes are located in 2 different service providers, let's say one is from China Telecom, in the China Telecom network, the other one in China Mobile Telecom network, the latency is very, very high. So because our current algorithm is really favoring the node with the lowest latency and the better performance. So quite often they don't get the same amount of share of mining reward as a node which have much better latency figures. So that's one reason. The second reason is with the some of the testing in China. So for example, we have a combination of things we're going on, right? So for example, for this network hard disk vendor, they do not need to run a full NKN node. So all they need to do is actually run NKN client in their home disk hard disk, as well as the NKN client in their mobile phones. So in terms of the servers or the we can help them with the nodes already in China, but also we can run some other nodes in China as well. And then the last one is about the Chinese YouTube, right? So that's also a different type of network architecture. For that CDN, you do not have to run the full NKN node, even though all the accounting and payments are done in NKN. So there are different ways of cooperation and utilize NKN technology. So it does not mean you have to run a full node in China to enable all this testing. So Elon, you have any?
I also have something to say. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there are just a few nodes in China. That's not the unfair of NKN, but it's just to show the fairness of NKN, because all the relay is based on the algorithm, what Bruce just said. So it's very fair that nodes in our country get more profit than in China. But you know, in China, the nodes can do a lot of things. Is that they don't need just to mining to get the reward. They also can running some servers, not just the client, but running some servers to get the profit. For example, for what we are doing about the NCDN or running the tuner, if they run such a service, they don't need to do the mining. They are a node in NKN system, but they are just supply such a service to other company or individual, and they also can get the profit by supply such a service. So that's a different from the mining node, and also they can run some service node.
Yeah. So yeah, that's Yanbo has a good point. So those nodes in China can run CDN, they can run tuner service, and etc. Even if their NKN mining part might not be as good as the some of the faster nodes, but they can still get lots of NKN reward by running other services.
Yeah, just a few more words about it. So Bruce had mentioned a few like partnership and in trial with some of the customers, and some of them are in China, right? For those customers and services, it's all based on like what Yanbo said. They don't rely on NK mining. So for example, they rely on either like the NCDN or tuner, which are both can be run without having the NKN node there. So they can just provide the, let's say, the tuner service, or they provide the NKN as an exit node in, yeah, NCDN as an exit node. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to switch gears a little bit. I think I can answer this next question. This one's around 5G.
Okay.
One of my favorite topics. There's lots of interest in 5G. What are your plans for 5G, and how can blockchain provided by NKN disrupt or enhance 5G? I actually wrote an article about this, but I'll give you like 2 different points that I think are really interesting. One is, we run on existing infrastructure. So with 5G, you have the possibility of having a better infrastructure. You have faster throughput, you have lower latency, and that only helps NKN. So as we develop our services on top of our blockchain, on top of our existing network, that actually gives us more room to play with. Faster latency options, higher throughput options, everything from that underlying technology that's provided. The other part of it too is that 5G actually introduces edge computing. And so the idea of actually taking the network and decentralizing it is actually pretty much in the wheelhouse of what we're trying to do here. Where NKN itself is a truly decentralized network. And so we really fit well in that kind of architecture. So and to address that, we've actually joined the TIP, the Telecom Infrastructure Project. We've been part of that for about a year now. And really it's a initiative that was sponsored by Facebook that actually brings together innovative companies like us together with a lot of the big mobile providers and other service providers out there to try to come up with new solutions on how we can address those type of things. And we're actually part of the edge compute work group within TIP as well. So I think that's kind of, we're pro 5G and I think NKN will fit well in that new paradigm. There's another question in here. I'm going to go back to our forum that I think also kind of gets back to our products and services side of things. Is this is from Zaki S or Zakis. And would you comment on the critical cold reception on the recent launched Google Stadia, a game streaming service from Google? When it was expected to be the next revolution in game industry, it comes with a number of expected problems and limitations. Since NKN wants to tackle the same space among many others, aka Tuna, would these limitations, example, bad latency, be an obstacle and make your team just shrug off the idea of streaming games?
I think that's for Elon. He's our gamer.
So yeah, my my opinion is that for this thing, I know Google Stadia has received a lot of criticism, but really, in my opinion, it's not Google's fault. It's more like, well, Google has already provided it's probably the best network in the world. But still, that does not guarantee that each end user can have a smooth user experience when using it, because typically the bottleneck is not on the Google side, but it's when I try to use the Google Stadia, the network will go from my computer to my router, and then to the ISP, and then after many routes, then finally reach Google. And typically, it's a bottleneck is outside Google. It's on the basic infrastructure of the network. And if there anything wrong with it, then Google can do nothing about it, and it just will have a bad user experience for the user. And that's more like an infrastructure problem. So I would say if Google Stadia finally it turned to be fails, then it's more like it's just not ready. It's not just a time yet, because it's making quite a lot of basic assumption about network infrastructure, and we just need to wait for the network infrastructure to be ready. I think the same argument applies for every game streaming company, because none of the game streaming company is providing the internet infrastructure, right? They are just using the network infrastructure. And if the infrastructure is not ready, then they cannot do anything. They can only wait for infrastructure to be ready. But they need to move early to take the good position and wait for the infrastructure to be ready, not just wait for it to be ready and then jump in. Otherwise, there will be no position for them. So yeah, for long term, so I think I still think a cloud game streaming is a good direction, but it's probably just not the very exact time to gain massive adoption yet, given that most people in the world do not have a millisecond, probably let's say 30 millisecond level latency connection to some of the cloud server or edge server.
Yeah.
And I'll add to that too. I think, you know, Google Stadia was really focused and made a big deal about being 4K and 60 frames per second, which really does tax the network quite a bit. Whereas in contrast, Microsoft actually has a similar kind of service that's in beta testing right now, and it's only HD. And actually, people are reporting that it's actually fairly good in streaming. So you have kind of proof that, you know, the network, you know, at least, you know, where it's at today, HD is good. And, you know, we're getting to the point where we'll be able to stream 4K in those in the future. And so I think Google Stadia is kind of a test for that. And I think we'll take lessons from that into our own solutions as well.
Yeah, Google always
So actually, I have a
future.
yeah.
Yeah, I just have a short comment. I mean, Google always like to build like futuristic products. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Actually, another question I asked on behalf of the community member, Tom. So he actually have some really beefy machines at home with lots of GPUs and servers. So now if we are not going to do a game streaming with Tuna, what he's going to do with his GPUs and powerful computer? So question for Elon.
Well, that's a good point. So well, by far they probably two probably two of the most two possibilities that we can think of is either game streaming or probably do some GPU computation. But yeah, it's just probably not time for massive. Well, I think it's probably for a longer term, not in a very immediately, like 1 or 2 months or something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
So probably it's you can use them your own.
So I got another one here from our YouTube. This is actually for Elon, I guess. I think this is actually related to the interview that they had recently from Gigamesh. Gigamesh, yeah. So Dr. Zhang recently mentioned that 1 billion full nodes can be run on the current NKN node code. How do you propose this to work on current infrastructure?
Oh, actually, so although 1 billion nodes sounds a lot, but actually it doesn't need to change any of the network infrastructure or any infrastructure. So the current infrastructure will have no problem handling this case. So just to make sure we are on the same page. So basically, in the NKN network, everything scales with the logarithm of the node. So by saying everything, I mean actually means the connection that each node will try to establish, the CPU usage, the RAM usage, the network usage, and all the resource consumption. Same for the basic infrastructure, because although there's 1 billion nodes, each node only connected to quite a small number of nodes. And if you, so currently we already have 20,000 nodes. And if we scale to increase to like 1 billion node, although it sounds like a huge improvement, but if you look at a single node, any single node in the network, roughly its connection just doubled. So if it's currently having 100 connection, then if we scale to 1 billion node, it roughly will have 200 connections. And the current infrastructure won't have any problem holding this, because by design, the network is designed to be very scalable, and nothing scales with a linear, nothing scales linearly with a number of nodes. Everything scales logarithmically. So yeah, so if you understand this, then you'll find out, okay, 1 billion node is not a scary number, right? It actually means, yeah, in terms of the resource consumption, it just doubles the current one. And if you have ever run an NKN node, you will find that the current NKN node almost take no resource consumption. So constantly I run an NKN node in the background in my laptop, and it doesn't affect any of my like daily operations, or even when I'm doing like some resource some of the like high payload jobs. And if you have ever run it on the DO or some of the small ISP, not ISP, like cloud provider, you'll find out, okay, it probably only use less than 10% of, or around 10% of CPU, and just a tiny amount of net bandwidth and RAM for even the smallest droplet in the DO. So it's already overkill for them. And if that resource consumption doubles as a result of having 1 billion node, it's still nothing, and the current node can handle it pretty well. So yeah, from the resource or infrastructure perspective, and also from the algorithms perspective, there is nothing to be ready because it's already ready. We just need nodes, adoption, people, and yeah.
Yeah, actually, I have something I want to add to it. So a story, right? So yesterday, Jack Dorsey, the CEO of Twitter, announced he will start with this called Blue Sky Initiative. So the idea is to define some common protocols or standards. So eventually, he will decentralize the Twitter, right? So if you look at purely, let's say, the messaging, how many tweets every day you send, how many Twitter active users, right? So I don't think there's any other blockchain are ready for that except NKN, right? So NKN today, I think Twitter probably have much less than 1 billion users, and the amount of message you send every day, because we are purely off-chain, so NKN is really perfect kind of the networking or the communication, the foundation for if Jack want to decentralize Twitter, right? Because we already can do today. Because the scalability, both in terms of amount of users or nodes, plus the amount, and also the amount of the offline message. Of course, not everybody want to be a full node, right? If it's client, then we can even support even more devices or clients. But just give you a sense that even if every Twitter user today run a full NKN node and send message to each other, I think we can support already. Yeah.
Excellent. So I'm going to take another question here from our YouTube channel. This one's actually about video streaming. So do you see any scope for NKN to work with video streaming on the blockchain, similar to what Theta is doing? First of all, Theta is a friendly company of ours. They're also a Bay Area company in this area. I think the difference here, we took a slightly different approach. Theta actually is a peer-assisted CDN service. So they actually work within the browser and work with the within the scope of that. So, you know, they can serve customers near you via within the browser and on the laptop itself. We actually took a networking approach where we actually have a CDN caching service that we provide. And that actually means that you don't have to change anything on the mobile device that you're using or the laptop that you're using as well. So we found that that was a much cleaner approach. And really, from an end user perspective, there's no difference whether you're using our service versus using like a traditional CDN service. So we can actually provide the same service at the same level as those traditional CDNs.
Yeah, and also I think Theta also have an approach that they also want to be the content aggregation and content creation platform, right? So I think they have the Sliver TV, which actually have the almost like a decentralized YouTube, right? So they have a platform for users to create the content, and then they, of course, like Alan said, the main difference is Theta is like a traditional P2P CDN. So the user client have to participate in the content distribution. But for us, we are relying on the networking or the nodes to do that. So it's very different, and also we actually have good collaboration with Theta project as well.
Great. Let me see here. Let me try. We get this question a lot. Maybe we could just kill this one. So do you plan staking in the future? Yeah, so this is actually, because we have been actually discussing this one and planning with different things and studying it and calculating it. So at the end of the day, so I think staking, to make staking work, right? So there are a few things. First of all, ideally, the blockchain technology underneath is proof of stake, right? So that's number one. Number two, the reward for stakers have to come from somewhere, right? So if you look at some of the projects, they have inflationary kind of policies. So which means every year there's additional new tokens are generated on top of the existing total supply.
but NKN has a fixed total supply, so we cannot inflate, right? So we do have the mining part, but we cannot generate additional tokens to pay for the stakers. So these kind of make it a little bit more difficult, and that's from technical point of view. But also from economical point of view, I think the staking and also this reward for staking still haven't solved the fundamental problem, right? So I would say still it's kind of how to optimize within the cake. But what we try to do, especially with the commercialization and the adoption, is really how to build a bigger cake, right? So that's the reason I'm saying. So for NKN to grow, the money have to come from outside of crypto, right? But I think typical like a staking mechanism, the money is still within the crypto. It's just a redivision of who get the bigger share. So from that point of view, I still believe that NKN is very much used for proof of work, and also focus on all the commercialization and the adoption I just mentioned, the early part of the AMA. Like, we are very proud, and we are really solving problems for the companies that the internet companies cannot solve, right? And we have advantage there. And those adoption and those revenue will really help building a bigger cake for the NKN. So I think that in the long run will benefit everybody, including the holder of NKN, including the miners, and including the users of NKN. So
yeah, and I think this day is not too long, we say, because we already have a solid progress in the commercial side. We have completed running some business case in there, and we will get the money from on the business deal. And such a money, part of them we will pay for the miner, and even the profit we complicate, we may buy back some token when the price we think is low. So I think by this way, all the participants in the whole system could be benefit.
We've got about 5 minutes left here.
okay, let's take
So
one or two.
we're going to take one or two one here. I'm going to pick up some of the lighter questions here.
Okay.
One is, how many full-time developers are currently at NKN?
So Yambo, do you want to take this one? How many full-time developer or even?
Oh yeah, sure. Let me kind of be. Yeah, we have almost 10 full-time developer, and also a bunch of a lot more community developer, like including like a part-time and or like or people we don't actually pay is not working for NKN, but they build awesome community product or SDK. Yeah.
Yeah, and one thing that we still are in hiring, and these days, what's the most thing time I spend is to hiring some talent employee for our company, because we have lots of business case, and almost all of them need some technical support, and we have some feature to be developing in the application layer. So that's also one thing we extend our develop team to support a more useful case.
Okay. This one here, this is actually just a recent one here. Can you see NKN working with Libra or DCEP to decentralize stablecoins, as most stablecoins are highly centralized and have been open to criticism for manipulation? Could this be NKN's entry into DeFi?
So I think I will not go into specifics, because we do have more confidential discussion going on. But I think in terms of Libra or DCEP, I think that the positions are this. So if the user want to pay with Libra or the digital RMB, we are happy to accept it. And but I think eventually we'll have some conversion to NKN, and NKN will be paid to the miners and also the service provider, like not only miners. For example, if somebody is running tuna service or NCDN service, we pay them NKN, because I think NKN is still the core of the how the system kind of really run. It's the blood stream of the system. Mm-hmm. So, but I think we'll be very flexible accepting different currencies, because for example, when we in China or in the US, those companies are big enterprise internet companies. They will not pay us NKN, right? So they pay us US dollars or RMB, but I think we will in turn buy from the exchange and then convert to NKN, then pay the miners or the service provider. So that's how I see the economics will work. But we are going to work with the stable coin, which makes most sense for our users.
Great. And with that, I think we can just about wrap it up here. Do we want to go around the room? Is there any other questions or comments we'd like to make here?
Maybe Yan-Bo, do you have anything to say for 2020?
In 2020, year. Yeah, I think currently is still dark days for the blockchain industry, no matter in a big environment, we think so. But we are very confident about that. We will set up a better future and very solid commercial use case in the next year, and we already believe that.
Yeah, I think for 2020 is really also along what Yan-Bo has said. It's really looking beyond just crypto and really kind of expand our use cases and increase amount of the users actually using our service. Like I mentioned, the tens of thousands of the Nest device users. So I think if we can do that both in China and also in the US and Europe, then I think we have a really kind of good economic system to further develop the NKN. And I think I'm quite optimistic about this prospect. And the good news is this prospect is independent of how the crypto market goes, right? It doesn't really matter that much, right? So so that's a good part. So we can actually weather the storm much better than some other projects. We are very much kind of influenced by the crypto market.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
great.
Yeah.
Anything but Elon? Yeah.
Yeah. So in 2018, we have already achieved quite a lot infrastructure. By saying infrastructure, we don't mean like hardware infrastructure. We mean actually software infrastructure level. We have already created the largest blockchain network in the world, and it's working very smoothly and nicely. And we have already got like huge technical potential and the capacity in the infrastructure. But now, as Bruce mentioned, it's probably time to make use of those infrastructure and the capacity we have been built and trying to bring them to the real users who don't know of a blockchain at all, who don't realize that it's using blockchain at all, and gain like more adoption and from the real world. And I think that will be one of the biggest goals in 2019. And that's probably exactly what we need and the whole blockchain world need.
Exactly. We are not just to set up the communication between the application. We also set up the connection between the real internet company and the crypto world.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I would just echo everybody's sentiment, and I'm also going to echo Isbo's sentiment on YouTube. Go NKN. But really, what I'm excited about in 2020 is really kind of taking a lot of these applications that we've come up with that on top of the NKN platform, and really bringing it to the end users and really getting it in the hands of people that can actually use it on a regular basis and really see the utility and the usefulness of the stuff that we've come up with. That's what I'm excited about in 2020.
Right. And also, I think now it's closer to the end of the year. Everybody have a different type of holiday to celebrate. So an early happy holidays and happy new year.
Yeah, happy holiday in advance.
Yeah, thank you to be with us in 2019, and so we look forward to bringing even more news, good news, and good fortune for 2020. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.